there, Kira here with another scrapbook layout process video, this time with the October Wild Hare kits. So I made two kits out of my petite kit. And one was kind of like a fall themed kit, and then the other one was like a non-fall themed kit. I guess it was just like a regular kit. And I decided to use the fall kit that I had created for this layout. So it's this picture of me and my husband and our son Jonathan, and I was pregnant with Elliot at the time, but it was before Elliot had came along, and we were on our annual apple picking, pumpkin picking trip. So I used this cut file, which I created for the Wild Hare kits. This is free on the blog, which I will link below, so you can so you guys can get this cut file if you're interested. There's also a background cut file that I created too, so you can feel free to get either of those. So I wanted to use this apple cut file for this picture of us apple picking, obviously. And I'm not gonna lie, I created this cut file specifically so I could scrapbook about our apple picking trip, and I think it turned out really cute. So what I did was I cut the apples. I cut 5 of the apples, and then I cut just like the base of the apple. I guess that's what it would be. And I cut that out of the 2x2 paper pads from my kit. So those are from Paige Evans' Turn the Page collection, and they're just 2x2 little squares. And I picked the ones that were mostly like a solid color or that I felt could work for a fall themed layout. And my original idea for this was to kind of stack the apples on top of each other and then do some like mixed media behind each apple, and I really didn't like the way it looked. I did not keep that part of the video in because it didn't make it in the final cut, so it didn't seem like it was important to keep it to show you guys what I did. But I did attempt some mixed media. It just did not go very well. So instead, I decided to put my apples down here along the bottom of the page. And I'm going to end up putting my title on top of the apples. So it's going to say apple and then picking, which I cut out with my Cricut. And I just used this like gray and white plaid because I thought I wanted like a neutral color, and I thought that the gray looked good with the other colors that I had picked. And I like the plaid for kind of a fall feel. So I will end up stitching around the picking part of my title because the plaid's kind of hard to, it's hard to see the actual word, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So when I stitch around it, it just makes it pop off the page a little bit more, and you can actually see what the word says. So I thought about doing it in like gray thread, but if I'm being completely honest, I didn't have any gray thread. So I just went through my stash and tried to pick out a color that I felt like would not clash with any of the colors I had on the page. So I went with this kind of darker dusty blue color. That's almost like a darker version of that last apple in the bunch there. And I think that it turns out really cute. So I did add some baker's twine. This is also from my kit, and it's kind of a light dusty blue color. And I just put that on the left side of my page. For now, I have my picture centered, but I don't like it there, so I will end up moving it to the right a little bit because I felt like because I had the baker's twine on the left hand side, I felt like it needed to fill out the right hand side more, so I do end up moving my picture over. Right now I'm just like tearing some of the edges of my paper and putting some pattern paper behind that. So again, these are just the 2x2 squares. On the right and the left hand side, I used one 2x2 square that I had cut in half. On the bottom, which you can't see right now, I don't know why I'm not in frame, but on the bottom part of the layout, it's a piece of the wood grain paper that I used as my background. And again, that's just from my stash and that I had pulled in to kind of build my fall themed kit for this month. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere my apples down. I typically don't do this much work on the layout before I start stitching, and I'm not really sure why I did it in this order this time, because it does make it a little harder to stitch on your layout with the more stuff that you have on there, and the thread kept getting caught on the little apple leaves, and it was kind of a pain in the butt, so I don't know why I did it this way, but you know, it worked. I mean, it stayed, nothing tore, which has been an issue the past couple times I've stitched on my layouts. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and adhere all of these apples down, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue down that baker's twine, and then that will basically dry as I'm piercing my holes around the title. And then I do end up stapling on those little torn edges of my layout. And I just use little tiny attacher staples for that. And that's just to give it another like textural element. I just like that, you know, you can, like, sometimes I like to stitch those down, sometimes I staple. I've seen some people just like glue them down, which I think works fine too, but I just like to give it another little piece of texture there. So yeah, this is where I'm picking out my thread, and I go with this blue color, and I go ahead and just pierce all around my title. For those of you who haven't seen me do this before, I just have this piercing mat from, I think it's We Are Memory Keepers, and I use a Tailor's Awl to do my poking. And there's my finished title. So now that I've got that down, now it's time to kind of work on my embellishing. I'm using this wood grain paper to back my photo, and I use my distressing tool to distress the edges of that. And again, I stick it down right in the middle, but that changes because I don't know why it was bugging me that it was in the middle, but I did not like it over there. So I'll end up moving that towards the right-hand side. And sorry about that glare. When I film at night, I have to use my studio lights, clearly, because it's not light out. So you can always tell when I'm filming at night because I'll have the studio light glare on my photos, versus when I film during the day. I usually film at nap time if I'm filming during the day, and I have plenty of daylight to light my space, so I don't need to turn on the studio lights or any overhead lights during that time. So yeah, clearly this was filmed at night with that awful studio light glare right on my photo. So I'm sorry about that. There's not much I can do about that. So now I'm working on embellishing it, and I had no idea what to do with this page. This page gave me a lot of grief. I kept sending pictures to Mary, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do with this page. I was stuck, and I just didn't know what to do. So I had fussy cut out a couple of these little phrases from one of the 2x2 paper pads. So one of the pads has pattern paper, and the other pad has like little sayings and phrases and stuff. And so I fussy cut around two of those, and I'll end up using one on this page. And then I also pulled out the bows, which were included in my Wild Hare kit, and these are from Amy Tangerine's newest collection, Hustle and Heart. And I pulled out a red one and a teal one. And I'm just trying to like figure out where to put this little phrase. And so I decide to put it down here in the bottom where this torn piece is. And I put a bow down there, and then I put this phrase down there, and then I decided, you know, I'm just going to build like a little cluster down here. So I pulled in some of these little cork pieces, and these are made by Mary. And I just decided to just kind of scatter those throughout the page. So I put one in each of the clusters that I build, and I build 3 clusters throughout the page. And then up by the apple, the pink apple, where the baker's twine is coming out, I've got one of those little teal bows, and then I bring in some of these wood buttons, and these are from the Pink Fresh Studio Boys Fort collection. Again, this is from my stash, not from Wild Hare Kits. And then I bring in another one of these little cork pieces. And then I'm like, well, this is starting to look kind of cute. I like these little clusters I'm building. And so I decide I don't like the photo right in the middle. So I go ahead and move that over a little bit. It's because I feel like there's too much white space on the right-hand side of the photo with the twine on the left-hand side. So I just scooted that over a little bit. And then I decide that I'm going to build a little cluster over by this top torn little piece of paper. And so I put a wood button. I put a wood button kind of tucked into that spot. And then I end up taking that out, replacing it with this cork piece. So I just kind of switch this around, like take the cork piece out, yeah, and put that there. And I think it worked out a little bit better that way. So then I decide to pull out some of these enamel dots, and these are again from my stash, and they've got like red and teal and like a creamy color. So I just pull out some of the red and the teal ones and place those in my clusters. And I'm really liking how that's looking. So I go ahead and finish off with some gold Heidi Swapp Color Shine and call my layout done. I'll have some close-ups here at the end for you guys, and I will leave links below to the blog where you can pick up this cut file and the Wild Hare Kits where you can purchase your own Wild Hare Kit. You guys have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.